I just found out recently that my wife has been having an affair for 6 months, and the discovery completely blindsided me. We've been together for 14 years, married for 10, and we have 2 young kids, ages 6 and 4. Never in my life did I imagine that she would betray me like this. It feels like the ground was ripped out from under me. Looking back, the situation started to unfold about a year ago when we became close with another couple who lived nearby and had kids the same age as ours. Naturally, we all started hanging out a lot, family outings, dinners, and even babysitting each other's children. Over time, my wife and the other husband grew close since they were the ones who spent the most time together managing the kids. I didn't think much of it. They had similar personalities and seemed to click easily. I was working longer hours than she was, so most of their interactions happened when I wasn't around. I had no reason to doubt her at that point. She'd always had male friends throughout our relationship, and I never felt threatened by that. But early last spring, things started shifting. She admitted she had been struggling with depression and began individual counseling. Around that same time, she threw herself into working out and eventually lost some weight. A few weeks later, she brought up couples counseling, but since I thought we were fine, I brushed it off and said maybe later. She never pressed the issue again, and on the surface, things between us seemed normal. We were still intimate. Our sex life was steady. Maybe not as frequent as she wanted, but never a source of conflict. Then little things started piling up. I found a couple of vibrators she'd purchased without mentioning it to me. I discovered them by accident one night when they switched on by themselves. When I asked her about it the next day, I wasn't upset about the toys. I just wanted to know why she hadn't felt comfortable telling me. At the time, I was already weighed down by stress, struggling with my own low sex drive, feeling distant and depressed because of work pressures, money worries, and the fact that I didn't have close friends in the new town we'd moved to 5 years ago. She, at least, had old acquaintances. I had no one. Still, once she started therapy and exercising, things seemed to improve. We hung out with that couple even more, and I felt happy we had friends. Our intimacy picked up, too, and for a short while, I thought life was moving in a positive direction. But then, during a family trip in July, she told me something that gnawed at me. She said the other man's wife had found their text messages and was very upset about them. My wife brushed it off, insisting it was only a large number of messages, but nothing inappropriate. She even said there was a single "I love you," but claimed it was a joke. She offered to show me the texts, though in a way that made it feel like I shouldn't bother. I trusted her, so I let it go. When we got back from that trip, though, I couldn't shake the anxiety. I started noticing things. The pouch with her vibrators seemed to move around a lot. She and he were spending more time together, especially when he was off work with the kids, while I was buried in my job. She bought him a custom-made gift right before my birthday and delivered it while I was at work. I asked her why she hadn't just told me about it, but she brushed it off. I started to feel like I was unraveling, constantly checking cameras, worrying I was being replaced both emotionally and physically. She continued to reassure me that they were just friends, but I couldn't ignore the feeling. My mental health deteriorated quickly. I wasn't eating or sleeping, so I sought help, saw a doctor, started therapy, and got on medication. Then I learned the truth. From talking to his wife and piecing things together, I discovered it wasn't just one "I love you." They were texting "good morning," "good night," and using pet names for each other daily. When I thought back to a night where she kissed me in her sleep and whispered a pet name, insisting later it was meant for me, I realized it hadn't been. That broke me. When I confronted her, she admitted she had been unhappy for years, felt depressed, and even considered leaving me. According to her, he was the one who talked her out of leaving. I confronted him too, telling him I didn't care if they remained friends, but the pet names and "I love yous" had to stop. Both of them apologized and said they'd back off. But the damage was already done. A few weeks later, we were all hanging out again, and I saw with my own eyes how differently she treated him. She barely acknowledged me when I arrived, but as soon as he showed up, she went to hug him immediately. I lost my composure. I knew I overreacted, but I couldn't help myself. She came over, demanding to know why I was upset, which escalated into another fight. The following day, the other family decided the healthiest choice was to set boundaries, that our household shouldn't have the same level of involvement anymore. And just like that, everything we had built with them as friends collapsed, leaving me with nothing but the painful truth of what had really been happening. I found myself in a situation I never thought I'd be in. At first, I didn't love the idea of my wife and this guy texting privately. She insisted it wasn't a big deal, but agreed to stop when I brought it up, even though she said she thought the whole no private messages rule was ridiculous. I let it go. A couple of weeks later, we went on a family trip, just us and the kids. I started noticing that whenever I wasn't right there, she was glued to her phone. Bathroom breaks, downtime, always texting. I finally confronted her because it felt like those boundaries we had set didn't mean anything to her. It turned into a big fight. She swore she wasn't messaging him anymore and that I was overreacting. 3 weeks later, I got a call that shattered everything. His wife had gone through their phone records and discovered that, instead of texting, the two of them had been talking for hours every single day. 40 minutes at 4 in the morning while he drove to work, an hour and a half at night, half an hour during lunch. Always when I was out or asleep. If I was home in the evening, magically there was no call. But when I wasn't, they were talking constantly. I was devastated. She had flat out lied to my face. We started couples therapy. She swore again that she had ended things. She told me in front of the therapist that she was rebuilding trust and there was nothing more between them. The idea was that we could salvage our friendship with their family so our kids could keep playing together. About a month later, I caught her taking a suggestive workout selfie on the Nest camera. Something about it felt wrong, so I checked her photo stream on her computer. That's when I found everything flirty, intimate pictures she'd been sending to him. Not full nudity, but undeniably sexual. They'd been exchanging these since August. Alongside the pictures were quotes she saved about forbidden love, finding a soulmate you can't be with, and being loved for who you really are. I felt sick. She had been looking me and our therapist in the eyes while lying. When I confronted her, she claimed again that it wasn't physical, just messages and photos. But then I learned she had also been telling him things like wanting to run away with him in a few years when the kids were older. She framed it as fantasy talk, but it still crushed me. Then his wife reached out and told me the truth. It had been physical. They'd been kissing since August and had slept together multiple times. Suddenly, all the pieces fit. The nights she claimed she was running errands, when she mysteriously turned off Find My Friends and even hired babysitters when she didn't need to, those were the nights she was with him. She even staged photos with other people as cover stories, so when I asked, she'd have proof she wasn't lying. When I confronted her in therapy again, she continued to deny the physical side. I eventually told her what I knew. We both cried, me from devastation, her from shame. But the next day, she still went to his workplace trying to talk to him. She claims it was just for closure, but he sped off, and she followed for a while before turning back. Then she called me to say she was done. But I don't know what to believe. Was she really trying to end it, or just hoping he would take her back if he hadn't been forced to stop? Now she's apologizing and says she hates herself for what she's done, that she can't stop thinking about how badly she messed up. But despite all her words, she hasn't given me the transparency I've asked for. She changed every password on her phone, computer, and tablet. In therapy, when the counselor asked if she'd be willing to share them, she flat out refused, saying she deserved her privacy. The therapist basically told her point blank that if she wanted any chance at rebuilding this marriage, she needed to be 100% transparent. Still, she won't. At this point, I'm worn out. Every truth I've learned has only come from me digging or someone else exposing it, not because she was willing to be honest. I don't trust her anymore, and I don't think I ever will. She says she's sorry, but her actions never line up. I've already spoken to a lawyer. I know divorce is likely where this is heading. The hardest part is timing. It's complicated with kids, with finances, with daily life. I'm debating whether to tell her in our next therapy session that I want to start an in-home separation. We have a guest room, so it's possible. I'm also thinking about separating our accounts so I can protect myself financially. I feel like I already know the answer. This is the end of our marriage. But I'm struggling with how to take the next step. She still acts like she's the one who gets to control what I know, and I can't live like that anymore. Everything is still joint at the moment, but I'm the one who earns most of the money. Since everything is going to be divided evenly in the end, part of me worries that making any financial moves right now would only create hostility. I wasn't sure if I should just hold out until our next counseling session in January after the holidays, or start pushing things sooner. We managed to get through the holiday season. We moved into separate bedrooms and officially agreed that we're separated and free to see other people if we want. Christmas came and went with only a small argument, but overall it was calm. Spending time together only confirmed that separating is the right choice for me. I know I'll heal eventually, but I also know I can't rebuild trust, and every little thing about her started irritating me. Listening to the audiobook Leave a Cheater, Gain a Life helped a lot. It gave me perspective, and I'd recommend it to anyone who's dealing with betrayal. New Year's was particularly hard because it marked 14 years since we got together. Instead of celebrating with my wife, I spent it with my best friend and 14 other people, almost all of them couples. Being the only single one was rough. Maybe I should have just stayed in town and spent it with my single friends, but I felt like I needed to see my old circle, the people who knew both of us since the very beginning. We had promised our son a museum trip for his birthday, but never got around to it, so we went on that family trip together as our last outing. It was good for the kids, and I managed to keep things civil. But the longer we were together, the more irritated I became, especially when she buried herself in her phone toward the end of each day. Still, I held it together. I knew I had every reason to go ahead and file right then, cut off the joint finances, and be done, but I didn't. Instead, I kept things mostly joint, stayed in touch with my lawyer, and let her consult a lawyer of her own. After she spoke with him, she told me we could either have her file, or I could. I told her I prefer to do it myself, and I filed the next day. That felt like a huge relief. Now she's close to securing a job and buying a house. Once it closes, she'll start moving out. Until then, we're still under the same roof, but I think we can coexist without too much drama. We both want things to go smoothly. We've already agreed on custody. Because of my work schedule, I'll actually get more time with the kids than most parents in my position would. I can pick them up from school at 2 p.m. instead of 5:30, and I'll have full days with them on my days off. We've also agreed on how to split holidays. There are still details to finalize, but the framework is there. It may not be the safest path to keep things this amicable, but it feels worth it. I know I'll have to interact with her for the rest of my life because of the kids, so it's better if we can at least smile at each other in the same room. After we separated and agreed we could see other people, I started seeing someone casually. It reminded me of what it felt like to be desired and wanted, and showed me what had been missing in my marriage. It was fun, and I made it clear from the start that I wasn't looking for anything serious. She knew that, but after less than 2 weeks, she told me she loved me. That was overwhelming. I'm not in a place where I can handle that kind of intensity. Meanwhile, I suspect my soon-to-be ex-wife has gotten involved with another man. I don't really care anymore. At least not in the sense that I try to stop her, but it's complicated because he's married, too. They met through a volunteer board where he's the new president. Since right after Christmas, they've been exchanging 500 to 600 text messages a day. I can't read them, but the volume alone is staggering. On our family trip, during dinner and bedtime, she fired off nearly 300 messages in just 2.5 hours. She's also been over to his place late at night, and the timing of some texts makes me think she's been there more than once. Midnight exchanges on New Year's Eve, messages at 1 a.m. It all adds up. I know I should stop digging for pain, but it's hard not to. Part of me wants to yell, "Do you really need to blow up 2 families?" I wondered if I should bring this up in our final couples counseling session, but ultimately I decided it might be better to let it go until the divorce is finalized. For all I know, she suspects I've been seeing someone too. If that's the case, it might be best to just leave it unspoken. My lawyer knows about both situations, but didn't really weigh in either way. I also suspect she may have resumed contact with her old affair partner. I saw a screenshot from her secret messaging app with a newer photo of him. That was on New Year's Day. I don't have proof beyond that, and I've decided not to chase it further. Now it's done. She moved out tonight. It's strange and sad being here without her for the first time, and even sadder knowing the kids are with her tonight. But I'm okay. I spent the evening with friends, and I've got more friends coming over the next couple of nights. It helps. Still, there's a sadness I can't escape. I miss the good parts of our life together. When I look at our wedding photos, I see her smiling, full of happiness, and I can't help but wonder what changed, what went so wrong. Maybe I'll never really know. What I do know is that I'll be all right. The kids will be loved and cared for by both of us. I'll always love her in some way, but I also understand she isn't the same person anymore, and she doesn't love me like she once did. Tonight it hurts deeply. I miss her. I miss the life we had. But this is the start of something new, even if it's painful.